my memory, Mr. Speaker, when I saw in my iPhone this famous picture of a document looking like that. Procureur Général versus your name, Mr. Speaker. Totally unacceptable. Yeah.
Madam Speaker.
Silly commentaire, the honourable member for Thornhill.
First time as the Member of Parliament from the riding of Thornhill, and I thank the member for his speech. And thank you to the voters of Thornhill who sent me to this place to ask some questions I really didn't hear the member speak about. 4.7% inflation is impacting families from across Canada. Food is getting more expensive, gas and home heating is costing more, and housing prices continue to reach record highs. Can the member opposite tell Canadians what measures today, in today's speech, in which inflation was mentioned a grand total of one time, will address the cost of living for my community in Thornhill?
The honourable member for Yukon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the member opposite and congratulate the member opposite on her recent election.
Here, here.
Mr. Speaker, we are well aware of the threat of inflation, and the answer is well embedded in the speech from the throne. And this is about affordability, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is about affordability.
I'm just going to interrupt the honourable member for Yukon for a second. Okay, we're just starting off, and I just was hoping that we might have respect for each other. And when someone's speaking, on either side, I would just hope that we have the decency to listen to what they have to say, whether it's a question, whether it's a comment, whether it's an answer. The honourable member for Yukon.
This important question of privilege, which has to do with the House of Commons' fundamental right.
Mr. Speaker, is totally unacceptable. Why, for the first time in the Canadian parliamentary history, we have seen the government knocking at the door of the justice system to be sure that the House of Commons could not do what he has to do, what the House of Commons has to do. I will always keep in my memory, Mr. Speaker, when I saw in my iPhone this famous picture of a document looking like that. Procureur Général versus your name, Mr. Speaker. Totally unacceptable. Yeah. But this is the tradition of this Liberal government, and we cannot accept that as any parliament of any side in this House. Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to quote from the House of Commons procedure, page 81. The House of Commons, exercising its power to punish contempt, enjoys a wide leeway to enforce its authority. It can consider any misconduct as contempt, and as a consequence, cases committed during a parliament can even be punished, or even those of another parliament. In concrete terms, Mr. Speaker, the dissolving of Parliament by the Prime Minister for his personal and reasons, for his vanity, which cost $600 million to hold an election, ultimately to have a cabinet shuffle and nothing more. That dissolution of Parliament does not constitute a question of privilege.
The speech of throne which the Governor General just delivered. But I want to raise this question of privilege as soon as possible, Mr. Speaker, bearing in mind your ruling on September 20th, 2023. Let me quote page 353 of the debate, finding that the question of privilege, which have been raised when the House opened on the third day of this session, failed to meet the necessity for timeliness. So this is why, Mr. Speaker, I raise this important question of privilege as the first time that I have the opportunity to do so, because it concerns not only the official opposition members, but all parliamentarians here in this House, because this government failed to recognize that this House is more important than anything else when we talk about parliamentary debate and parliamentary democracy and parliamentary rights of people to sit in the House.
Mr. Speaker, let's go back over the facts concerning the Winnipeg lab.
Health Agency of Canada, Ian Stewart, was a witness as a special committee on Canada-China relations, where left members unsatisfied with his answers. On March 31st, the committee ordered the agency to produce certain documents. The agency would only partly comply with the order. So, Mr. Speaker, le 10 May...
On May 10th, the committee once again passed an order giving the agency a second chance, but the agency did not respect the order twice to appear before the committee. On June 2nd, the House passed a motion that we Conservative opposition members had tabled, and that was ordering those documents produced.
Comply fully. The then Minister of Health claimed she had referred the matter to the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians. En conséquence, Monsieur.
As a result, Mr. Speaker, I raised a question of privilege on June 16th, which you allowed.
Speaker's Milliken's historic ruling in respect of the Afghan detainee documents ruled that the House had every right to compel the production of the documents. The Chair also ruled that contrary to that case which arose from a recklessly drafted Liberal opposition motion, the House had taken the necessary step to balance parliamentary responsibility with protection of national security and to promote dialogue with the government on this issue. As to the Liberals' attempt to sidestep the House order with a reference to the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians, you stated clearly that it did not fulfill the House order. In response, I move the motion to find the agency in contempt and to order Mr. Stewart to appear at the bar of the House and to receive, on behalf of the agency, the Speaker's admonishment and to deliver to order the ordered documents. That motion was adopted by the House the following day. So, Mr. Speaker, on June 20th, a day before he was due to appear at the bar, Mr. Stewart provided notice to the Attorney General under Section 38.01 that the Canada Evidence Act, quote, that agency was required to disclose sensitive or potentially injurious information in relation to a proceeding before the House of Commons and the Special Committee, unquote. On June 21st, Mr. Stewart appeared here in the House of Commons at the bar of the House to receive the Speaker's historic admonishment on behalf of the agency. But, Mr. Speaker, the Chair also received a letter from Mr. Stewart's counsel advising